Andrey Rublev on mental struggles, self-reflection, and the power of responsibility. Standing in the picturesque Irish village, Andrey Rublev momentarily turned away as he spoke, his gaze drifting over the lush lawns. As he gestured toward his wrist, finger, and forearm, even his gear, it became clear that his focus had shifted inward. The 27-year-old's personal mantra, responsibility, is more than just a word, it's a guiding principle in his ongoing journey of self-discovery. Rublev returns to the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships a year after his controversial default from the semi-finals, where an animated outburst at a lines judge led to his disqualification. Known as much for his fiery temperament as for his self-destructive tendencies, often leaving his hands and legs bloodied from striking himself with his racket, the Russian has spoken candidly about his battles with burnout and depression. Completely lost. I was completely lost. I kept wondering, what's the purpose of living? Rublev admitted, reflecting on years spent in emotional turmoil. When something like this happens for a few months, you still have patience, thinking you can overcome it. But when it continues for years, it reaches a point where you feel you just can't take it anymore. It's like a pain, he continued, pointing at his arm. It starts to grow more and more, until you reach a moment where you just want to cut the arm off. Despite his struggles, Rublev recently claimed his 17th career title in Doha, bouncing back from a first-round exit at the Australian Open. Finding a way back. During his darkest times, Rublev turned to antidepressants but eventually stopped after a year when he realized they weren't helping. At first, you feel a bit better, but then, nothing. It wasn't making things worse, but something felt off. I didn't like that feeling, so I stopped taking the medication, he explained. The turning point came with the guidance of former world number 1 Marat Safin, whose own career was marked by emotional volatility. Marat helped me understand myself, that was like a restart from rock bottom. From there, little by little, I started moving in a better direction, Rublev said. I'm not in a good or bad place, but I no longer feel stress, anxiety, or depression. I'm just neutral. Not happy, not bad. But I've found a base, and that's a beginning. The power of self-honesty. For Rublev, true change began with self-awareness. The main thing is to be honest with yourself, he emphasized. Many people think they may not always be honest with others, but at least they're honest with themselves. That's a huge lie. Most people aren't even honest with themselves. I was the same. I believed I had no problem admitting when I was wrong or made a mistake. But in reality, I was lying to myself about many things. I didn't want to acknowledge them. This tendency to wear a mask, he said, is a common defense mechanism. People make excuses, they say they act a certain way because someone hurt them, or they don't want others to see their true selves. But in reality, they're running from their problems. The first step is to be honest with yourself, and from there, you become more aware. A single-word reminder. Rublev's commitment to self-accountability is reflected in a simple but powerful gesture, writing the word responsibility on his shoes. Every time I look down, that word stares back at me, he said. It's a reminder that everything, good or bad, is on me. If something goes wrong, it's not because of luck, it's because I made a mistake. If something goes right, it's because I did something well. You can't blame anything or anyone. This is my way of reminding myself not to complain. As Rublev steps back onto the courts in Dubai, he carries not just the lessons of his past but a renewed perspective, one built on self-awareness, accountability, and the belief that taking responsibility is the first step toward change.